The silent threat. The stars in the galaxy were quiet, peaceful even. The great galactic empire, known for its dominance, ruled over countless planets. Their technology was unrivaled, their weapons powerful beyond imagination. For centuries, no one had dared to challenge their might. Every alien species had learned to bow to the Empire's will, or face certain destruction. But in the depths of space, far from the Empire's watchful eyes, something was stirring. Something the Empire had no knowledge of. A force so powerful, so unexpected, that it would soon turn the tide of the galaxy. The human fleet had long been considered weak, primitive even. The Empire had dismissed Earth and its people as insignificant, mere specks in the vastness of space. They thought of humanity's weapons as outdated, their ships old and slow. The Galactic Empire's military might laughed at the idea of humanity being a threat. How could a species with such primitive tools ever pose a danger to them? But the Empire was wrong. Deep in the vast reaches of space, humanity had been preparing for something that no one could have predicted. They had gathered their forces, their fleets, ships that were considered relics from a time long past. But these old-fashioned ships were not as useless as the Empire thought. They were built with a resilience and ingenuity that only humanity could provide. On Earth, scientists, engineers, and military commanders had worked together in secret, crafting weapons that could match the Empire's most advanced technologies. The human fleet was ready, though the galaxy remained unaware. The Empire had no reason to suspect that such a powerful force was even possible. In the cold, empty silence of space, the first human ships slowly began to move. They were far from the Empire's view, hidden by asteroid fields and nebulae. But they were headed toward their target. Earth's fleet was small, but it was a force to be reckoned with. And though the Empire had no idea what was coming, the time had come for humanity to make their move. Far away in the Galactic Empire's headquarters, the leaders remained blissfully ignorant of the threat they were about to face. They continued their war across the stars, focused on expanding their territory and crushing any rebellions that dared to rise against them. They laughed at the thought of Earth's fleet challenging their supremacy. It seemed impossible, but the Empire's arrogance would soon be their downfall. As the human fleet approached the border of the Empire's territory, something extraordinary happened. The fleet wasn't composed of the latest and greatest technology. Their ships were old, their weapons less sophisticated. Yet there was something undeniably powerful about them. It wasn't just the firepower. It wasn't just the advanced engineering. It was the human spirit, the determination, the will to survive, and the sheer refusal to be defeated. In the command center of one of the Empire's ships, an officer sat at his console, casually watching the star charts. He was the first to notice something strange, something out of place. A flicker on the sensors, a signal. It wasn't much at first, just a tiny blip on the screen. The officer dismissed it as a glitch. After all, what could it possibly be? Humanity's fleet was still nothing more than a joke in their eyes. But then the signal grew stronger. The blip became a series of complex patterns, something not even the officer could ignore. He quickly contacted his superiors, and soon the news spread like wildfire across the Empire's fleet. A human fleet, larger than any they had ever anticipated, was moving toward them. And they weren't here to negotiate or beg for peace. They were here for something much bigger. They were here to fight. Within moments, the message was relayed throughout the Empire. The generals and admirals scoffed at the news at first. They couldn't believe that the primitive humans had managed to gather a fleet. Surely it was a mistake, a misunderstanding. But soon, more reports came in. The human fleet wasn't retreating. It was advancing. The Empire was beginning to panic. They were the rulers of the galaxy, after all. How could a weak, insignificant species pose any kind of threat to them? Yet, as the human ships grew closer, something strange began to happen. The sensors on the Empire's ships detected something they couldn't explain. An energy signature, far beyond anything humanity should have been capable of. There was a power radiating from those old human ships, a force that made the Empire's most advanced technologies seem insignificant in comparison. The Empire was in trouble. They had underestimated humanity for too long. Now, they were about to pay the price for their arrogance. At that moment, humanity's fleet broke through the edge of the Empire's radar. The Empire was on high alert, but it was too late. The first strike from the human fleet hit a nearby Imperial warship. It wasn't much at first, a single shot, seemingly insignificant, but that shot tore through the enemy's defenses like a blade through paper. The Empire's ship exploded in a blaze of light, and panic spread like wildfire across their ranks. The humans weren't what they thought. Their ships weren't old. They were resilient, far stronger than anything the Empire had imagined. And so, the silent threat of humanity was revealed. The Empire had no idea that their time was running out, that the species they had dismissed as weak was about to change the galaxy forever. The silent storm had begun, and it would only grow louder from here. The battle begins. The cold, dark void of space was suddenly filled with a deep hum, the sound of humanity's fleet readying for battle. For months, they had prepared in secret. Now, their moment had come. The human fleet, composed of seemingly outdated ships, moved forward with unstoppable purpose. Each vessel was a testament to human ingenuity, crafted from the remnants of a forgotten era, but built to withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. On the Imperial warships, confusion was spreading fast. The first attack had been swift, sudden, and terrifying. A single shot from the humans had obliterated an entire Imperial destroyer. The Empire had never seen anything like it before. What kind of weapon could pierce through their defenses so easily? What kind of force could be hidden in those old, battered human ships? General Varric, a high-ranking officer in the Galactic Empire, was overseeing the situation from his command post. He had served in countless battles, faced rebellions, and fought wars across the galaxy. Nothing had ever prepared him for this moment. Humanity's fleet was unlike anything he had ever faced before. "Report," he barked at his communications officer. The officer quickly brought up the readings from their radar. "Sir, the human fleet is advancing. It's unlike anything we've encountered. Their ships are using some sort of unknown technology. Our shields are ineffective against their weapons." The general's brow furrowed. "What do you mean ineffective? We have the best technology in the galaxy." "We don't know yet, sir," the officer replied, fear evident in his voice. "But they're destroying our ships with ease." The first strike took out the Zenith-class destroyer in a single hit. "Their weapon is unlike anything we've seen." Varric clenched his fists. "They must have some sort of new weapon, or this is some sort of trick. Are you sure it's not a malfunction?" "We've run every diagnostic, sir," the officer answered. "This is no malfunction. The human fleet is powerful." As Varric stared out at the stars, his mind raced. How could this be happening? He had heard rumors about the humans, how they were rebellious, unpredictable, and resilient. But never had he imagined that they could field such a formidable fleet. A fleet that was now slicing through the Empire's forces like a hot knife through butter. The Empire was in trouble. Back on Earth, as the battle raged on, commanders and strategists watched in silence. They knew their fleet was small, but they also knew it was built for this moment. The weaponry they wielded was ancient, but it was far from obsolete. In fact, it was perfectly designed for warfare in the void of space. The ships were not about speed or flashy technology. They were about raw, unyielding power. One of Earth's most experienced pilots, Captain Rhea, was commanding one of the human ships in the front lines. Her ship was called the Vanguard, a battle-hardened vessel with a long history. Unlike the sleek, advanced ships of the Empire, the Vanguard was a beast. Its hull covered in reinforced plating, its weapons systems designed to tear through even the toughest defenses. Rhea stared ahead at the incoming Imperial ships. "We're ready," she said softly, her voice a calm contrast to the chaos unfolding around her. It's time to show them what humanity can do. Her crew worked with precision, each person focused on their role. They had trained for this day, and now they would make their mark in the galaxy. In the distance, the Empire's fleet was forming up, ready to respond to the human threat. They were slow to react, their initial surprise giving way to a sense of panic. The fleet that had once thought itself invincible was now scrambling, sending waves of ships into the battle, each one more desperate than the last. The first wave of Imperial ships moved into range, but the humans were ready. Rhea's ship, the Vanguard, fired its first shot, a massive energy beam that tore through the shields of the nearest Imperial destroyer. The beam didn't stop there. It cut through the enemy vessel's armor like it was made of paper, and the ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The Empire's fleet staggered back, the shockwaves of the explosion reverberating through space. In the chaos, more human ships opened fire, their weapons roaring to life with deadly force. The Empire had no time to react as one ship after another was destroyed in a brutal, unstoppable assault. On the command ship of the Galactic Empire, General Varric watched in disbelief. His heart raced as he saw his fleet fall apart before his eyes. Humanity's fleet wasn't just holding its ground, it was decimating everything in its path. "We need to counterattack," Varric shouted, his voice rising in panic. "Send in the reserve forces. Call for reinforcements. We cannot lose to these humans." But the Imperial response was slow, and it came too late. The human fleet, despite being outnumbered, fought with unmatched precision. They had no intention of retreating. They didn't just want to win. They wanted to obliterate the Empire's forces. Every shot, every strike, was designed to completely dismantle the enemy. Back in space, Rhea watched as the Imperial ships continued to fall. The human fleet wasn't just winning. They were rewriting the rules of war. The Empire, once so powerful and feared, was now fighting for its life. Rhea's voice was steady, but it carried a hint of triumph. "We're not just here to fight. We're here to end this. We're here to show the galaxy who the real power is." As the battle raged on, the human fleet continued to press forward, undeterred. It was clear now that the Empire had underestimated them, and it would be their greatest mistake. The tides of war had shifted, and there was no going back. The Galactic Empire's shock was just the beginning. Humanity had come to show the galaxy its true strength, and nothing would stop them. The tide turns. The once feared Galactic Empire was now in full retreat. Their ships, once symbols of dominance, were being torn apart by the relentless assault of the human fleet. The hum of the weapons and the explosion of starships echoed in the void of space, a stark reminder of the cost of underestimating humanity. General Varric was at the heart of the Empire's command ship, desperately trying to regain control of the situation. His mind raced, searching for any strategy that might turn the tide. The humans had shown no mercy, and their unexpected might had shattered his once confident stance. His thoughts were clouded with doubt, something no officer of the Empire had ever allowed themselves. "We can't keep losing ships like this," Varric muttered under his breath, watching another Imperial destroyer disintegrate into nothing more than a scattering of debris. "What are they doing? How are they so powerful?" He turned to his second-in-command, Commander Valen, who was pacing the command deck nervously. "Have we received any word from the fleet's reinforcements?" Varric asked, trying to keep the desperation from creeping into his voice. "Sir, the reinforcements are still en route, but at their current speed, they won't arrive in time," Commander Valen replied, his voice tight with stress. "At this rate, we'll lose everything." Varric's eyes narrowed. The longer they delayed the counterattack, the more time they gave the humans to finish what they had started. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the control panel. The realization hit him with a force he wasn't prepared for. The Empire was fighting a losing battle. There was no turning back now. "We need to regroup," Varric ordered, his voice sharp. "Fall back to the secondary defensive line. We can't let them destroy the entire fleet." Meanwhile, deep within the human fleet, Captain Rhea sat at the helm of the Vanguard, her mind sharp and focused on the battle unfolding before her. She had led her crew through countless training simulations, but nothing had prepared them for the intensity of the real thing. Still, she had never doubted their strength. With every Imperial ship that fell, the crew's morale soared. They knew the tide was turning in their favor. Their fleet wasn't just strong. They were unified, driven by a shared goal to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. And in this moment, they were unstoppable. "Captain, another wave of Imperial ships is coming in," one of Rhea's officers called out from the radar station. Rhea didn't flinch. She had expected this. The Empire, despite their initial panic, was trying to rally their forces for one final assault. They were desperate, but humanity had the upper hand now. "All hands, brace for impact." "This is it," Rhea said calmly into the intercom, her voice carrying the same cool confidence that had become her trademark. Her crew moved quickly, each person performing their role with practiced precision. They had trained for this moment, and now it was their time to shine. Their weapons powered up, ready to fire again. "Fire at will," Rhea commanded. And with that, the Vanguard unleashed its barrage of devastating energy blasts. The beams shot out in rapid succession, tearing through the advancing Imperial fleet. Every shot found its mark, obliterating ship after ship. From the bridge of the Imperial command ship, General Varric watched as his fleet was systematically dismantled. His eyes were wide with disbelief. How could this be happening? They had superior technology, superior numbers, and yet they were being wiped out by these primitive humans and their so-called old-fashioned weapons. "Send in the reserve forces," Varric barked, but his orders were met with hesitation. The Imperial forces were already stretched thin, and their morale was shattered. His officers were no longer as confident as they once were. In their minds, the battle was already lost. But Varric refused to accept that. "We cannot let them defeat us," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "We have to win." Yet, deep down, he knew the truth. The humans were relentless. They were fighting not just for survival, but for their place in the galaxy. And they had proven, beyond a doubt, that they were not to be underestimated. As the last of the Imperial ships fell under the relentless fire of humanity's fleet, Varric's worst fear had come true. The Galactic Empire was crumbling. They had failed to stop the humans, and in doing so, they had underestimated a species that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. On the Vanguard, Captain Rhea and her crew watched as the Imperial ships continued to explode in fiery bursts. The battle was over. The Empire had been defeated. Rhea stood from her seat and addressed her crew, her voice calm but filled with pride. "We've done it. We've shown them what humanity can do." The crew cheered, their faces alight with the joy of victory. They had done the impossible. Against all odds, humanity had not only survived, they had conquered. But Rhea knew that this victory was just the beginning. The galaxy would never forget the day the humans had risen up and shattered the Empire's once unstoppable force. It was a day that would echo through history, a day that marked the dawn of a new era. As the human fleet began to regroup and prepare for what was next, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The Empire may have fallen, but humanity was just getting started. The galaxy was theirs for the taking. The collapse of the Empire. The tide of the battle had completely shifted. What was once a moment of hope for the Galactic Empire was now a desperate struggle for survival. The humans, with their unmatched resolve and seemingly endless firepower, had shattered the Imperial fleet in a way no one had ever imagined possible. The void of space, once filled with the hum of their technologically advanced ships, now lay silent, punctuated only by the occasional explosion as another enemy vessel succumbed to the unstoppable might of the human fleet. General Varric stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign, his hands clenched tightly into fists. His heart raced, and his mind swirled with a combination of disbelief and frustration. He had witnessed battles before, countless engagements that seemed impossible to win, but this This was different. This was no ordinary enemy. These humans were unlike anything the Empire had encountered. They had crushed the Imperial forces with cold precision and unwavering determination, as though they were fighting for something far greater than just survival. "We've lost more than half the fleet," Commander Valen said, his voice shaky as he reported the latest casualty count. His face was pale, his eyes wide with shock. "They're relentless. No matter how many ships we send, they just keep coming. We can't stop them." Varric slammed his fist on the control panel, his frustration boiling over. "This can't be happening," he muttered, his voice a low growl. "We were the masters of this galaxy. How could these insignificant humans—" The rest of his sentence was cut off as another explosion rocked the ship. Varric stumbled, grasping the edge of the command console to steady himself. On the view screen, another Imperial vessel erupted in a brilliant flash of light, disintegrating in mere seconds. "Sir," Valen said hesitantly, "we can't keep fighting like this. The humans are too strong. We need to retreat. The fleet's been decimated. We can't survive another wave." Varric's face twisted with anger. "No, we do not retreat," he snapped. "We do not give up. We fight until the very end." But deep down, he knew that Valen was right. The human fleet had proven their superiority, and no amount of Imperial bravado would change that. The realization gnawed at him, and he began to question everything he had ever been taught about his Empire's invincibility. Far across the battlefield, Captain Rhea stood tall on the bridge of the Vanguard, her heart still racing from the exhilaration of the recent victories. She had seen the fear in the eyes of the Imperial fleet, their once unshakable confidence now crumbling under the might of her crew's firepower. It was a victory the humans would never forget, but Rhea wasn't content to stop there. "Captain, we have reports from the outer fleets," Lieutenant Dorian said, his voice tinged with excitement. "The Empire's remaining ships are retreating. It looks like they're trying to regroup, but we've broken their lines." Rhea nodded, her sharp gaze fixed on the view screen, where the remaining Imperial ships seemed to falter. "Don't let up. We push forward now. This battle ends today." The human strategy was simple yet effective. Relentless assault, target the weakest points of the Empire's defenses, and strike quickly. Every ship in Rhea's fleet had followed her orders to the letter, and it was paying off. Their weapons systems, old-fashioned as the Empire called them, had proven to be more than capable against the Empire's most advanced technology. Humanity had learned the art of war in a way that the Empire had never anticipated. "Sir, we've destroyed their command ships," reported Lieutenant Dorian, his voice filled with awe. "The leadership of the Empire is in disarray. We have them right where we want them." Rhea allowed herself a rare moment of satisfaction, but only for a moment. "Excellent work, Lieutenant," she replied, keeping her tone steady. "But we're not done yet. This is just the beginning." The Empire had fallen into chaos. Without their central command, the remaining Imperial ships had no direction, no leadership. The fleet was scattered, and their once mighty fleet was now reduced to a mere shadow of its former glory. As the human fleet continued its forward march, Rhea could feel the weight of history on her shoulders. They weren't just defeating an enemy, they were rewriting the future of the galaxy. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and that mistake had cost them everything. Back on the Sovereign, Varric paced the command deck, his mind reeling. The retreat was inevitable. The Empire had failed, and his leadership was being called into question. What was left for him now? Could the Empire rise again? Could they even escape this humiliation? "Sir," Commander Valen said softly, his voice barely audible. "What now?" Varric turned slowly to face him. The words came hard, as though every part of him resisted speaking them aloud. "Now, we surrender." The word felt foreign to him, a bitter pill to swallow. But the truth was undeniable. The Empire had been crushed, and there was no longer any hope of victory. The human fleet had demonstrated an unstoppable force. And now, The Empire was facing its greatest defeat. On the other side of the battlefield, the human fleet continued to press on, relentless and unstoppable. The galaxy would never be the same. The once powerful Galactic Empire had crumbled before humanity's might, and their future was now uncertain. The war was over. The humans had won. The dawn of humanity's dominion. The final moments of the battle were upon them, and the once mighty Imperial fleet had all but crumbled under the unrelenting force of the human fleet. For Captain Rhea, standing at the helm of the Vanguard, the weight of what had just transpired was both exhilarating and overwhelming. The cries of victory could already be heard throughout the fleet, but it was clear that this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of something far larger. Fleet Commander Rhea, Lieutenant Dorian spoke with a sense of awe in his voice, his eyes glued to the displays showing the scattered remnants of the Imperial forces. The enemy's surrender signal has been sent. They've acknowledged our superiority. Rhea nodded, her face stern but proud. Good. Send the message to the entire fleet. We stop for nothing now. Push forward and secure every Imperial stronghold we can. They'll learn the consequences of underestimating humanity. Even though the Imperial fleet was in disarray, Captain Rhea knew that their victory would only be complete when they had secured every Imperial base, neutralized any remaining resistance, and made sure the galaxy knew that humanity was no longer just a species struggling for survival. It was a force to be reckoned with. Across the galaxy, the echoes of humanity's triumph spread like wildfire. News of the Empire's defeat began to ripple outward, reaching every corner of the galaxy. Systems that once looked to the Empire for protection now found themselves free of the oppressive regime that had controlled them for centuries. The balance of power had shifted in a way no one could have predicted. As the news spread, the leaders of various factions began to send envoys to meet with humanity. Some were nervous, others hopeful. They had watched as the humans wiped out the Empire's forces with ease. There was no denying it. The humans were a threat now, a force that could either become an ally or a new master. General Varric, aboard the Sovereign, sat in his command chair, staring at the blinking lights of the ship's bridge. His mind was in turmoil. His greatest fear had come to pass. The Empire had been obliterated by humans, and the once unshakable confidence of the Empire was nothing but a distant memory. The Galactic Empire, for all its power and glory, had fallen, and Varric found himself helpless to prevent it. "We are surrounded by human ships," Commander Valen reported quietly, his voice laced with the weight of defeat. "We have no resources left to fight." "It's over, General." Varric's eyes narrowed. "I know." He stood slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. He gazed out at the view of space, where the remains of the Imperial fleet floated lifelessly. "How did this happen? We were invincible. We should have crushed them." Velen sighed deeply. The humans, they were underestimated. They fought with everything they had. We thought our technology, our strength, would be enough, but they were prepared. They fought with something we've never understood: determination, willpower. They didn't just fight to survive. They fought to win, and they did. There was a long pause as the full weight of their defeat settled upon them. General Varric knew that the Empire had lost much more than ships. They had lost their place in the galaxy. But even as that thought crossed his mind, a part of him still wondered what it meant for humanity's future. Would they become just as tyrannical as the Empire? Or would they prove to be different? On the bridge of the Vanguard, Captain Rhea turned to face her crew, a feeling of accomplishment resonating in her chest. The battle was over, but there was no time to relax. Humanity had not only triumphed over the Empire, but had secured its place in the galaxy as the dominant power. "We've proven ourselves," Rhea said, her voice firm but calm. "But the real test begins now. How will we rebuild the galaxy? Will we be the rulers others feared, or will we rise above that? The choices we make now will determine the future of humanity." Her crew nodded, and a new kind of determination filled the room. It was one thing to defeat an empire, But it was an entirely different challenge to ensure that humanity didn't fall into the same traps the Empire had. Rhea knew that the humans had the potential to change the galaxy for the better, but that would require wisdom, patience, and restraint. As the human fleet continued its march across the galaxy, they began to encounter representatives from other species who had once been under the Empire's thumb. Some sought peace, others offered their allegiance, and a few were hesitant, unsure of what humanity's rise would mean for their future. Rhea's mind raced as she considered their next moves. The fight for survival was over. Now the fight for the soul of the galaxy was about to begin. Would humanity take its place as a beacon of hope, or would they become just another empire, another conqueror? The next few months would decide the course of history. A new threat rises. Humanity's victory was swift and overwhelming, but it didn't take long for a new, unexpected challenge to emerge. As the last remnants of the Galactic Empire crumbled beneath the might of the human fleet, a new power began to stir in the shadows of the galaxy, one that had been biding its time and watching the chaos unfold. Captain Rhea stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, her eyes fixed on the holo-display that depicted the galaxy in a vast, sprawling view. Though the Empire was broken, new signals had appeared, strange, unfamiliar, and far more advanced than any technology humanity had encountered. It wasn't the defeated Imperial ships, it was something else. Something worse. Captain, Lieutenant Dorian's voice was tense as he approached, his face lit by the glow of the communications console. "We've received a communication. It's from the Scorn Dominion." Rhea's heart skipped a beat. The Scorn Dominion was a feared and mysterious alliance of alien species, rumored to have watched from the edges of the galaxy for centuries. If they were reaching out to humanity now, it could only mean one thing: danger. "Put it through," she said, her voice steady, though she couldn't suppress the feeling of unease that crept over her. The holoprojector flickered for a moment before the image of a tall alien figure appeared before them. The being was draped in dark, shimmering armor, its face obscured by a smooth silver mask. Rhea immediately recognized the presence as someone of high rank, a leader of the Scorn Dominion. "Human Captain Rhea." The voice was cold, echoing with authority. "We have been watching your rise with great interest. It is clear that you have the power to destroy what remains of the Galactic Empire. But you must understand, the Scorn Dominion does not tolerate threats, and you are a threat to us." Rhea's eyes narrowed. She had prepared herself for this moment, the moment when others would come to challenge humanity's newfound dominance. But hearing it confirmed still sent a chill down her spine. "You've come to challenge us?" Rhea asked, her voice calm but laced with an unmistakable edge of defiance. The Scorn leader tilted his head, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Not challenge you, Captain. We come to offer you a choice. Surrender now, and we will allow you to live. Resist, and we will crush your fleet in the same manner you crushed the Empire." The threat was clear, but Rhea didn't flinch. She stood tall, her hands clasped behind her back. "We don't surrender," she replied coldly. "And we don't bow to anyone, not even you." The Scorn leader's expression remained unreadable. "Then prepare for the consequences. We are not the Empire. We have weapons that make yours look like child's play. We are everywhere, and you will never see us coming." Before Rhea could respond, the transmission cut off. A cold silence filled the bridge of the Vanguard as her crew exchanged uncertain glances. "Captain, what do we do?" Lieutenant Dorian asked, his voice filled with concern. "We've never encountered anything like this before. If they have weapons like they say, we might be outmatched." Rhea exhaled slowly, weighing the situation. The Scorn Dominion had made their intentions clear. They were a force to be reckoned with, and humanity had no choice but to prepare for the worst. But she wasn't going to let them have the final word. Not after everything humanity had already sacrificed and won. "We prepare for war," she said firmly. Turning to the tactical officer, "Send out a distress signal to all Allied fleets. We need to unite, and we need to move fast. No one can stand alone against the Scorn Dominion. As her orders were executed, Rhea couldn't help but feel the weight of what was to come. The Empire was a thing of the past, but the galaxy was far from peaceful. With the rise of the Scorn Dominion, humanity was about to face its greatest test yet. The question was no longer whether humanity could fight. It was whether they could survive against an enemy that was both ruthless and secretive. On the edge of the galaxy, beyond the reach of the human fleet, the Scorn Dominion had already begun to mobilize. Their ships, silent and deadly, moved through the shadows of space, unnoticed by any who did not already know how to seek them out. They were a race defined by their secrecy, and their weapons were said to be so powerful that no fleet, not even the Empire's vast armada, could withstand them. In their hidden stronghold, the Scorn leaders convened, a council of beings from various species, all with their own unique abilities and technologies, watched the holoscreen as images of humanity's triumph over the Empire were displayed. "Humanity thinks they've won," said the voice of the Kortak, an imposing reptilian figure. "But they do not understand the depth of our power. We've waited for this moment, and now it is time to strike." "Let them come," replied T-Lora, a tall, ethereal being. "We will show them the true cost of defiance." The others nodded in agreement, their cold eyes burning with the anticipation of the coming conflict. The final stand. The calm that once filled the vast expanse of space was now shattered. Humanity's enemies had been defeated, but in the wake of their triumph, the threat of the Scorn Dominion loomed large, far more dangerous and ruthless than any enemy they had encountered before. The warning had been clear, and as the human fleet mobilized, the weight of what was to come hung heavy over their heads. Captain Rhea stood at the helm of the Vanguard, her hands gripping the railing tightly. Outside, the stars gleamed like distant promises, but her eyes remained focused on the display screens, which now showed a vast Scorn fleet rapidly approaching human-controlled space. Their ships were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, sleek and black, almost phantasmal in nature, as if they moved through the very fabric of space itself. And yet, despite their frightening appearance, Rhea felt a surge of determination rise in her chest. "They've been underestimating us," she muttered under her breath. The Scorn Dominion had thrown their challenge at humanity, daring them to resist. But Rhea knew her crew, knew humanity's resolve. She believed with every ounce of her being that no matter how advanced the enemy's technology, no matter how superior their weapons, the human spirit would prevail. Rhea turned to her tactical officer. "What's our status, Lieutenant?" "We've sent out the distress signals to all Allied fleets, Captain. We have reinforcements coming from every corner of known space. We should be able to hold our own for now. But, Rhea raised an eyebrow, already suspecting what he was going to say. The lieutenant hesitated. "They're faster. Their ships are built for stealth and speed, Captain. We may not see them until it's too late." Rhea nodded, already considering their options. She had no intention of waiting passively for the Scorn to attack. They would meet the enemy head-on. It was the only way. "Prepare the fleet for battle. Every ship, every soldier, no one sits this one out," she commanded, her voice firm. "We will fight until the very last breath." As the first wave of Scorn ships emerged from the darkness of space, humanity's fleet was ready. The Allied fleets that had gathered in the wake of the Galactic Empire's fall had prepared for this very moment. Their weapons were primed, their ships loaded with the finest technology humanity had ever devised. Every battle had led to this. Every victory had been a step toward this final confrontation. The question no longer was whether humanity could fight. It was whether humanity could survive. The Scorn fleet made its move, and within moments, their ships began to decloak, phasing in and out of visibility with terrifying precision. The first few moments of the battle were chaos. Scorn ships seemed to appear out of nowhere, launching devastating strikes before vanishing into the dark abyss of space again. Their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Energy pulses so powerful they could tear apart entire fleets in a single shot. But humanity's fleet had its own strength. Rhea's ships, though they didn't have the advanced technology of the Scorn, relied on precision and sheer numbers. The human ships weren't just machines. They were symbols of human perseverance. And Rhea had something the Scorn didn't: the ability to adapt. "Focus fire on the ships in front of us," Rhea ordered, her voice steady and clear despite the chaos of battle unfolding all around her. "Use our shields to block their fire, then break through their defenses with our secondary strikes." The human fleet moved as one, every ship in perfect sync with one another. Despite the Scorn's advanced stealth technology, humanity's ships were able to track their movements with the help of new sensor technology they had developed. For every Scorn ship that vanished, there was another one to replace it. The Scorn Dominion was everywhere, but so was humanity's determination. The first wave of Scorn ships was torn apart. The human fleet's response was swift and deadly. But the Scorn didn't relent. They were relentless, their ships coming in waves, faster and faster. Each time a Scorn ship fell, another took its place. Rhea's eyes never left the screen, her mind focused on one thought: victory. Hours passed, the battle raging on as the two forces clashed across the vastness of space. Every second felt like an eternity, every explosion sending a jolt through Rhea's nerves. But the human fleet was holding its ground, no matter the odds stacked against them. And then, just as Rhea had predicted, the Scorn leader's flagship made its move. A massive, cloaked vessel, larger and more formidable than any ship humanity had ever seen, appeared from the darkness. Its weapons flared to life, unleashing pulses of energy that shattered the ships around it. This was the heart of the Scorn Dominion and the final blow they had promised. "Target the flagship," Rhea shouted. "All weapons, full power. This ends now." In the chaos of the battle, the human fleet focused its firepower on the Scorn flagship. The fight was brutal, but the tide had turned. Humanity's fleet, united in its resolve, began to tear through the enemy's defenses. The flagship began to falter, its systems failing under the relentless assault. With a final explosion, the flagship was destroyed. The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. The Scorn fleet, having lost its command ship, began to retreat. Their forces scattered, unable to recover from the blow they had suffered. Humanity had won. Against all odds, against a foe far more advanced than they could have imagined, humanity's fleet had crushed the Scorn Dominion. Rhea stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, her gaze lingering on the view of space beyond the ship. The stars were still. The galaxy had been saved, this time. But she knew that this victory was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there would be more challenges ahead. The Scorn Dominion had been a powerful enemy, but they were not the last. "Set course for the nearest colony," Rhea said, her voice firm. "We've earned a victory, but the fight is far from over." The war for the galaxy might have ended, but the future was still unwritten. Humanity had proven one thing, and Rhea knew it for certain. As long as they stood together, no enemy, no matter how powerful, would ever be able to break them.